I think everyone starts with a prison, if I'm not mistaken. So you have this guy going on right here. This denies someone an entire turn. They can obviously attack with their creatures, but they get no new resources on their next turn. So it effectively stops one turn, which is huge. Absolutely huge. Altar of Asha, this is slightly less game-changing, although it's still incredibly good. Basically, you sacrifice one of your friendly creatures, and you either take a creature from your graveyard, hello a nail, if you die, you could get a nail back, or, more commonly, you destroy one of your own creatures to kill an enemy creature. So if you have a huge thing blocking your way, you can play a POW, attack his hero, combo it with the Altar of Asha, since your POW is going to die anyway. All of a sudden this POW is used to sacrifice to kill any enemy creature on the board. So that's pretty awesome. He also has a third unique, which is Cassandra's Imperial Devotion, which we've already talked about. It's a great card. And these three uniques, which means he can only have one of each of them. This is basically what allows his deck to do so well. And you might say, well, there's only one of them. Like he has three uniques, he plays them once. These two are game changers, this one not so much. But what happens if he does that and he still isn't winning because he doesn't have that many creatures? Well, he has Cosmic Singularity. And if you don't know what this card does, it lets you take every card from your graveyard and shuffle it into your library. So after he plays these three uniques, after his Soothsayers have already fetched these and then died because he uses them as blockers, he gets them all back in his deck. And he can just draw them over again. So if he hasn't already won, he gets to use one of these again and probably win. It's just a really, really cool deck that focuses, as you see, 4-2-5. This is how people post their decks. This stands for 4 Might, 2 Magic, 5 Destiny. And it has the balance of cards here. He has 31 creatures, 2 spells, 17 fortunes. He included the 2 lightning strikes just to make way for his creatures to keep dealing damage. This is what I would consider to be a sort of creature control type deck, aggro control. Broken Bridge help him control the board a bit more. Revised Tactics, this is an interesting card that lets you thin out your deck so you can draw your better cards. Or if he's playing against a Sanctuary, it's a no-brainer. He can just take out these flyer guards since Sanctuary has no flyers. Yeah, Cosmic Realignment, this lets people discard their entire hand, so this can easily shut down an OTK or any combo player. Yeah, River of Gems to get some extra resources. Very solid deck, very fun to play. I can't play it because I only have one Wolf Captain. And I don't have a Nail. And I'm sure a lot of you are in the same boat. But, there you go. So you have sort of a taste of what a Tier 1 top deck for Haven would look like. And, yeah. If you don't know what this is, by the way, mmdoc.net. You can click on decks, go there, look at any deck you want. There's a whole bunch here. Good stuff. I think Gangrene just made this deck. Am I mistaken? No. Alright. Let's take a look at it and see what he did. So, we have his improved V2 version. Alright. And right away, right off the bat, 33 creatures, 17 spells. And if you're playing this game for fun, creatures and spells is probably the most fun way you can play this game. Now, yeah, he has some 1-cost creatures here. Quite a few, actually. This might be bordering too many. I would take out probably either the Crossbowmen or the Sentinels, whichever one you prefer. Neither of them are particularly great. But then he has these 2-cost creatures, the Elite Squire, Expert Marksman, and that's it for 2-cost. So I can see why you have so many 1-cost if perhaps you don't have any more 2-cost. You definitely need a good amount. The bare minimum of 1 and 2-cost you could ever have in a deck is 8. And at that point, you're really risking not having anything you can play in your first 2 turns, which is dangerous. So, if you have any Loyal Griffins, which I'm pretty sure you should, I would add those to this deck and get some more 2-cost creatures. Holy Praetorians instead of Imperial Sentinels. expert marksman instead of imperial crossbowmen if you have those. Get a little bit more 2 cost in there. That'll beef it up just slightly. What's up, Evil Nuff? How you doing, man? Thanks. That email is awesome. I'll have to respond to that later when I get time. Alright. Your 3 cost creatures here. Radiant Glory, Sunrider, great cards. Wolf Marksman is a good card. I like this card a lot. It has Retribution. Retribution is very useful on this ranged creature here. It's pretty much always going to be dealing 4 damage to something when it's deployed. And often 6, which is pretty awesome. Lesser Fire Elemental. If you really need ranged damage, this is perhaps one of the best elementals you could play. It's still not worth it for its cost. Obviously, if you had a Griffin Marksman for every Lesser Fire Elemental you'd be getting an extra Retaliation and 2 health for free. So this is like an inferior version of your Griffin Marksman. So it's a filler card. You can make it work. It deals that 3 damage that Haven sort of needs, and it's playable. Just like the Warrior Seraph, as I said before, is a playable card. It's good for that 3 damage. Chosen of Elrath. I think that's a good include for this deck. Why not? I think there could be better things, but you only have one of them. It can sometimes make a difference if there's someone who doesn't have any board clear in their deck. The Chosen of Elrath can really make a huge dent in someone's plan. 2 Death Seekers? Sure. Sure, why not? Why not? They're not necessary, I don't think, in any Haven deck, or at least not in a Cassandra deck like this. I wouldn't consider them necessary, but they're always useful. Never gonna say no to POW unless it's very certain deck type. These spells here, alright. So we have a new spell. Obviously, Word of Light is pretty good. Lightning Bolt is pretty good. Sunburst is great. If we look at Lifting Wind, okay, so this deck lets you exchange positions of 2 target creatures. Now, this is an interesting spell. I used it when I first started. I'm pretty sure you start with 1. And I used it a couple times, and I mean, if someone deploys, say, a Juggernaut on turn 3, and all you have out are these little wimpy guys, well, you can attack with one of them, switch places with someone else, and all of a sudden you've dealt 4 damage and killed the Juggernaut just by attacking twice from the same row. Yeah, I can see that as a use, but I would consider this to be a bad card otherwise, because if this ever had any use, it would be more useful in a rush deck. This is not a rush deck, so this card becomes less valuable. The reason I say that is because the ability to move creatures like this is more so geared towards maximizing your damage on a certain location. So for instance, you have, I guess I can't load up a board right now, but I'll just go into a little practice game here. I don't have any decks, so I can't. Pooh. Alright, so just imagine with me if you can. You're on your board and you have these 3 rows are filled with your creatures. These 2 rows right here are filled with your opponent's creatures. And you want to deploy a POW right here. So you do. You attack with your POW. You deal that 3 damage. Now you really want to get an extra 2 damage to finish off his hero or something. You could use Lifting Wind, switch your Sunrider over here so he's not blocked by this guy, and you deal that extra 2 damage. So that's why I say it's a rush thing. Obviously you can use this the same way to sort of target down a hero, or a creature I mean, to try to gain your board control. But if you have Lightning Strike, that is infinitely better to use than this card, because it doesn't waste any of your creatures' attacking rounds, and it's an automatic 4 damage, where a lot of your creatures are only dealing 1. Alright, cool. And one more thing I guess I should kind of want to point out are events. I haven't really talked about events much. I'll show you this one real quick, because this is what most top tier decks do. They focus on 2 of the best events they can have, and then they use those. So in this case, he has used the new event, Week of Training. Some of you guys may not have this yet, and that's a little bit unfortunate because it's really great for Haven decks. You spend 2 resources, and all creatures with a base attack of 1 or less get an extra +1 to their attack. And this is a base of 1. So this scales with Wolf Captain, who gets +1 attack and retaliation for each adjacent friendly creature. He can have 3 guys adjacent to him, get up to 4 damage, and you can still play this, and since his base was only 1, he gets up to 5. So that's a really good card. You can see there's the Tithe Collector, all these Soothsayers, Holy Praetorian. They all have 0. Even this guy has a base of 0 or 1. So that's all these creatures that you get +1 damage with, and that's pretty good. So that is something most Haven decks can benefit from. His second event he has here is Mana Storm. Spell cards cost 1 resource more to play. Most of the decks I've looked at are based on spells, so you would obviously not want to include that, but instead you'd want to include Week of Taxes, which is right here. So if you're running creatures and spells only, and you have no fortunes or very few fortunes, you would want as many Week of Taxes as you have in your deck. It's just such a solid card. It can shut down some combos, or at least delay them quite a while. If someone has a creature and fortune deck, this is really going to slow them down and give you a slight advantage. So other fortunes, obviously there's fortunes like this. Increase the health of the next creature you deploy by 2. It costs 3, a little bit expensive, but I think it's probably the best one of the creature buff things, which take with a grain of salt because I don't think any of them are particularly good. Very circumstantial, like you'd have to be playing with a hand where you're very low on creatures and you want to increase its health by spending 3. It's not cost effective at all for what it does, and there are a lot of better events out there, but it can help occasionally. I played with it even after 1,000 elo. I'm pretty sure I had this in my deck when I was winning some Swiss tournaments. Events don't make or break a deck, but they can definitely give you an advantage if you use the right ones. This one is not really ever going to give you an advantage. Same with the ones that increase your retaliation or your attack. They're not going to do very much at all to help you. Day of Fortune. This is an event that lets you discard a card, then draw a card. I don't mind it. It costs 3, which is a bit expensive for what it does. If it costs 2, this would be a great card. Costing 3 means that it's sort of okay. If you happen to have a bad draw, it can help you sort of rebound from that, potentially. Obviously, it's not going to change the whole hand that you have. It's just one single card, but it's okay. Not a necessarily bad event. Celebration's already talked about.